Hey, what's up guys? Von Gene here, and I wanted to talk about why it's important to celebrate your success as you continue to improve. So a common thing that we go through today is that as we get better, we're so focused on the next thing or other people or several other factors that we often forget to take the time to just sit down and be proud of ourselves. I believe a lot of this is encouraged through the media, and I'm going to get into that. But I really want to break down why it's important in this video and break down some common things that lead us to this problem of not celebrating our success. First, let's talk about who's to blame. And as I just kind of referenced, I believe it's the media. You know, you see these videos and stories about the underdog and how you have to have this horrible life before you're allowed to be successful in some sort of way, or that you have to come from nothing, and if you had any kind of privilege or advantage or anything, that it kind of disqualifies you. Of course, the media doesn't directly say that, but this is the message that we receive. The other underlying messages that we get are things like, you're not there yet, so why are you celebrating? Or, look at this other person who's doing this, why aren't you on their level? So of course, there's more than just the media, but that's just a big glaring one that we all have access to just about every second of the day. So let's go over some common themes here and what we can do about those. To start, the first one would be too much focus on the next goal. So someone may do a lot of things, and I'm included in here. And in fact, I want to say right now, many of these I have suffered from in the past, which is where I got this idea from. But with this one of not focusing too much on the future, we're often so caught up in these long lists of habits, these long lists of goals, these long lists of accomplishments that we want to get, that once we check off one of the boxes, we don't even realize all of what we just did. And this is detrimental because if you keep doing this, eventually you're going to keep telling yourself that what you're not doing is not enough, or what you're doing is not enough. I don't know how to say that correctly. Hold on. What you're doing is not enough. Yeah, there you go. So to counteract this, I would say take the time to rest. And if you don't know the importance of rest, I have a video about burnout. I'll put it in the description. I really want you to watch that. It kind of goes over the importance of rest, but if you don't want to watch that, just look it up and understand that rest is really important for our mental health and just overall productivity. And you driving yourself up the wall with all these accomplishments, all these tasks, in the long run, it's really just going to come back and hurt you. So schedule some time to rest and then understand that rest is really needed for us. The next one, comparison with others. So this is a difficult one. Again, the media will constantly show you these outliers. 21-year-old this person, 5-year-old Bitcoin millionaire, guy buys his house when he's still inside of the womb of his mom, and all these other crazy examples. And it's so easy to get caught up in those because they have high views, high attraction, a lot of comments, and you often forget that the average, which is thousands or millions of people, is exactly that. It's the average, and that's what you need to go out of your way to compare yourself to. I know I make silly examples, but my point is it's very easy to get caught up in these outliers. So the first thing you can do is to really sit down and compare yourself to yourself, where you came from, how you started, what your progress was like at the beginning and what it is now. You can take the time to do that for everything you do, your business, how much money you make. And also, as I alluded to before that, take the time to really find the average in that area. So maybe a YouTube channel, or learning music, or learning how to fight at MMA practice, or learning a language. Look at the average. Don't try to look at who's the fastest person who did it, because you're naturally going to keep trying to compare yourself to that person who did it in a short amount of time. And I would say put it in your notes somewhere so you can continuously reference this. This way, whenever you start to get doubt or that comparison creeps up, you can just jump back to viewing the average. I also want to add, there's nothing wrong with being an outlier. I'm an outlier in several areas. for good and for bad. But I want to say, if this hurting your mental health or it's hurting your ability to celebrate what you're doing, you should definitely take the time to avoid looking at those and really just hone in on the average. Another one, and a more common one than I actually thought, is privilege or advantage. So you may believe that what you have is because you had a certain circumstance given to you, or you were very privileged or advantaged in some areas, and that's the only reason that you were able to get successful in something. Firstly, I want to say, understand that we all have privileges. Whether you realize it or not, we all have some kind of advantage. I always think about my ability to speak Japanese. If you're here, or if you've been here before, you know I make some videos in Japanese. I'm fluent in it. But one of the reasons I am is because I lived in Japan for 10 years. And so naturally, when I make videos about how to start a language from scratch, I sometimes feel a bit hesitant to do that because I understand I was privileged to just go outside and practice conversating, or ask somebody at work, hey, what does this mean? So that is one of those things. And I would say, if you do have a privilege or you do have an advantage, use that to help other people. Maybe use it to give people guidance. Maybe use it for a bigger cause than yourself. So take the time to try to do that in whatever area you feel like you may have an advantage or something. Perfectionism. Now this is a really big one, especially on YouTube, where we're often taught how to do things in the most optimal, correct way. And if you somewhat deviate from this, that it's not good. And we're constantly fed with this. So it's hard to produce things. It's hard to get things out there because we often feel like we have to have this super finished product. The first step you want to take in that is just to really acknowledge it. Understand that you do have a really high standard. And there's nothing wrong with that. You should have a high standard. But you should make it a point to just release things or do things or accomplish things or be proud of things at a certain time. I also have a video about perfectionism. I go over something called ranges and checkpoints. I really want you to check that out. But in general, start establishing timelines for things and understand that over time you're going to get better at things. No one's just going to start off perfect, and there is no such thing as perfect. Next up, we have fear of appearing boastful. And so what this basically is a fear of kind of bragging about yourself, or a fear of maybe being a little too self-centered or alienating yourself in a certain way because you've been able to do something or you've been able to accomplish something. This is actually a big one for me as someone with a long list of hobbies. And the fact that I'm actually really good at those hobbies, I have a big problem with trying to lead by example, because it's a fine line between, am I flexing, am I bragging too much, or am I being a good example for what I'm trying to teach? My solution to this is to understand that in order for someone else to be fulfilled in wanting to be good at a lot of things, I should lead by example. This is why I have guitar videos on my music channel and piano stuff. And a lot of the music you hear during my videos is my music. I will eventually put up fighting footage, sparring footage, and break those down, whether I do good or do bad, because I really want to lead by example in everything that I talk about. This is also why I make videos in Japanese, and eventually I'll make videos in Italian, because though I do still struggle with that, I understand that there's so many people who also want to be good at a lot of things, or they just want to be good at one thing or accomplish just a couple things. And so for me, I think leading by example outweighs being boastful. However, that's still a battle that I'm going through, and eventually I think I'll kind of find the balance. But again, just try to focus on your purpose for doing that. This is how I would say you overcome the fear of being boastful. Imposter syndrome. Now, this one really comes down to not feeling like you are competent enough to keep up with the other people in that area or do something in that field. I definitely deal with this in software engineering. There's so many tasks that I've taken on that I don't know the full complete finish line at the very start. And so I get a bit worried, but really understand that no one can escape imposter syndrome. Everyone on earth deals with this. from small tasks to big tasks. So this is just something that you'll have to understand. It comes with the game. It's really one of those things that you have to get through by brute force. I don't think there's any affirmations or tactics or skills to really get around it. It's just taking a lot of action and understanding that it's a part of the process. The next one would be luck or chance. So many people, including myself, you'll often come across some situations or opportunities in which you don't really feel like you earned it. It was more so you were just at the right place at the right time. And this is normal, but it's okay. There's nothing wrong with having a good opportunity come up that you take advantage of. I would say really embrace it. You know, I worked in Japan for 10 years. I lived there for 10 years, like I said. But one of the reasons I was able to stay so long is because I got offered a job literally just for being me. I was doing handstands in my gym one day, and then I was also practicing backflips on the stretch mat. And the manager came up and told me, like, really cool, blah, blah, blah. We started talking in Japanese. And the next day they asked me if I wanted to work there. Turned out to be one of the greatest jobs I've had, but I didn't do anything for that job. I didn't apply. I didn't ask to work there, nothing. They approached me about it. And so I can attribute that to luck or chance and say, oh, you know, it should have been someone else or blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, someone has to do it, or that chance had to come to someone. So just embrace it. And the final one is just a complete lack of awareness. So on YouTube especially, and these productivity spaces, we don't even realize that we're supposed to celebrate our successes because it's not really talked about. And it's usually just a video, again, about the next one, the next goal, kind of like the first thing I talked about. So a lack of awareness will come back to get you. But now that you've watched this video, or maybe you already knew this before and this is just affirming it, you should definitely take the time to celebrate your successes. And if these things that I've listed get in the way, try to solve that and then be proud of yourself. Of course, humility is always a great way to go, but I've learned now in my 30s, too much humility not only holds you back, but it also holds other people back because maybe you're one of the reasons they're getting into something. And so if you don't celebrate your successes or you hide yourself away like I did pretty much all my life, it's not really going to benefit anyone, and definitely not you. So overall, celebrating more is just going to help you accomplish a lot more. I know in today's world with the media, it's all about, I didn't do enough, so I gotta push, I gotta push, I gotta push. I'm all about hard work. I think that's what gets you the most satisfaction in life. But at the same time, you really want to take the time to celebrate what you've been doing, because you don't want to turn it into something that's just ruining your mental health. And you know, on my channel, I always talk about how mental health is the absolute foundation of anything you're trying to accomplish. So as long as you keep taking care of that, a lot of the goals are just going to take care of themselves naturally. Anyhow, if you've made it this far, I would appreciate if you like the video. It helps me out a lot and helps get this to other people. If you have not already, go ahead and subscribe, and you can leave a comment about maybe something you're interested in and all that. I more so care about comments than anything else. I don't really check my analytics, but I like interacting with who's viewing the channel and whatnot. So that being said, if you don't subscribe, I will send Dr. Eggman to come see you, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.